Hello, this is testing the mic. Seems like everything's working. All right, this is a quick video that I am uploading for Claire Bowman, actually. Um, Whoops, things are frozen. And we're back. Okay, so I don't know how much I cut out, but this is a quick video that I'm making for Claire Bowman, which is just a quick tutorial on how to play the King's Dilemma so that you can watch recordings of Adam and Charlotte, John Barbalis, Dan Davenport, myself, and Mary Van Veet play this game. So a quick tutorial is that the group, the five of us, will each be an advisor to the king. And the king in this situation does not have a substantial amount of power. It is really the advisors that are going to be making the decisions. And the way that we can make decisions is, I am going to be, say, assigned a color. Let's say I'm green. And I'm going to have money that I can use for bribes and power that I can use for votes. And so I am going to be voting yay or nay on a number of different dilemmas that are going to have impacts on the kingdom, both mechanically for scoring wise and narratively in terms of the story's gameplay and narrative and what happens. So power is used for voting yes and no, and money is used for bribing and scoring and points like that. How does a basic game happen? Basic game is going to start out with a really small deck full of dilemmas. And what's going to happen is we are going to shuffle this deck, and we are going to draw one of them at random. So for an example, let's say I shuffled it a few times, and the dilemma that I pull out is this one right here. This is the one that everyone is going to vote for. And if you look at just the blue section and the red section, you can see that they have consequences on the shininess or on the diamonds. One of them is all white, which means it has a positive effect on the diamond. This one is black, which means it has a negative effect on the diamond. And so let's say I was playing and John was over here. Let's write that down. John Barbalis. And let's say that Charlotte was over on this side. And let's say that we would read this dilemma, and I will not talk about the narrative, but it basically says, hey, there's a merchant that's in town. Do you want to make a deal with him? Making a deal is going to cost you money, and refusing the deal is going to save you money. That's not what the narrative says. It's just what I'm making up. Let's say, hey, I want to make a deal, so it'll cost us money in the short term, but maybe benefit us in the long term. I will vote 2 on yes. And then John could vote 2 on no, and Charlotte could vote 1 on yes. And in this case, we would have 3 yes votes to 2 no votes. And so we would go ahead and say, okay, the ayes have it. We are going to follow the blue side of the script. And so what are the consequences? There's narration, which we're not going to talk about, but this will further the story. And then a few things are going to happen. The flag token is going to move up. The diamond token is going to move down. Sticker number 0 is going to be placed, and envelope number 40 is going to come out. Let's start with the tokens moving up and down. So in this case, the flag token would move up, and the diamond would move down too. Flag would move up, and diamond would move down too. That's what would happen if everything was just doing exactly what the card says. Flag going up and diamond moving down too. But you'll notice that these tokens have 2 different sides, and they symbolize momentum. So in this case, black is downward momentum and white is upwards momentum. Because the wealth went down too, but it had downwards momentum because it was black, it is going to move down an additional slot. And we're going to continue adding on downward momentum. So now the next time diamond went down, it would add an additional 2 that it would follow going down the downward path. So as a reminder, the card said diamond goes down 2. But because there was downward momentum, it goes down an additional 1, and it adds downward momentum. If we draw another card that says diamond goes down by 1, the diamond would go down by 1. Plus, because it's black, it would go down by another 1. Plus, because it had an additional momentum, it would go down another 1. And you can never have more than a single downward momentum. So this one would go down by. The flag, on the other hand, went up by 1. And because it had downward momentum, it's not going to, go up an additional one because that's up is against the downward momentum. But instead, it will change its momentum. So now it has upward momentum. And if we continue increasing the flag will continue to gain momentum, and it will start to kind of chain reaction and build upwards and upwards momentum as it goes on. The last thing that we will change is this primary balance token right here. The kingdom, in order to stay stable, needs to have this not reach any of the endpoints. And if it ever reaches the top or the bottom, the game is over. And in this case, our wealth went down by 3, and our morale went up by 1. And so that leaves us with a net effect of down by 2. This is not in the danger zone, but if this ever started to reach the very bottom or very top, that would cause the game to end prematurely. So this would be the net effects of what happens on this card. These tokens all have symbolic meaning. The tower is your influence, how other kingdoms see you, but it's also just pretty correlated with how strong your army is and how good your reputation is. The diamond is your wealth. The flag is your morale, how happy the people are. The grain is the welfare, which is how well you are able to take care of the people, feed them, give them luxuries, etc. And the scroll is your knowledge, how much knowledge you have about the world around you and about ancient artifacts and things like that. And different houses are going to have different goals for where they want these to end up at the end of the game, ultimately. But let's keep talking about the consequences on this card. The other two things that come out are sticker 0 will go down, and envelope 40 will open up. Let's start with sticker number 0. We will pull out sticker number 0. And this sticker says there was a diplomatic incident. It came into account because of the decision we made with here. And so we are going to put this diplomatic incident, which in the top right corner, right here, it has a negative effect on our army and our reputation amongst other nations. So we're going to put that there. And the person who really voted the hardest for this outcome, I voted 2 for yes. John voted 2, but for no. He ended up losing his vote. Charlotte voted 1 for yes. Because the yeses had it, the ayes had it, and because I was the highest voter, I would put my sticker there. Let's pretend I was the Lapster clan. And so any consequences that happen because of this decision that we made, because I was the one who voted the most for it, the people are going to remember, hey, Clan Lobster, they were the ones who chose this. So they were going to have negative or positive feelings towards my house in future games because of this sticker. And that's kind of covered later on in the videos when we get to the point of stickers mattering. The last thing that happens is we open envelope number 40. Opening envelopes furthers the gameplay. So C40. Card C40 could not be found. C40. Right. This is, hey, there was a deal made with the merchant. And so there are some consequences, some narrative consequences that are going to happen because of the decision we made on this card. And there are new decisions that we are going to have to make that come about as a result of the decisions we made on this card. So what that means is this is the deck of possible decisions that we can make, and we're going to shuffle the new decisions in. So now we have a number of new decisions that we might be making that have to do with the consequences of this. And we have a new narrative that's going to stack with our current narrative, and we're going to stack these over on the right side of the board, and you will kind of pick up on how that works out later. That should kind of make sense. So you make decisions, you vote yes or no, and then you follow what happens. Tokens move up and down, and you open up envelopes and stickers, and the leader, whoever voted the most, stamps his or her name down as being the ultimate decision maker in this process. And that is the entire game. To remember that we voted yes for this, we will stick this here. And for the next card that we draw and we make a decision on, we are going to stick it here. And when we draw another card and make a decision, we will stick it here. And when we draw another card and make a decision, we will stick it here. and so on and so forth, until we eventually get to the end of this track right here. You'll notice that this right here has a skull. This means that if we see a card that has a skull on it, for example, this one, while we're at, so you can see the kind of skulls showing up on this one in the center of it. If that happens when we're here, that means the game has gone on long enough and the king has died, and that is the end of the game. So there's 3 ways to end the game. If this token gets all the way to the bottom, if this token gets all the way to the top, or if we have enough rounds go on that eventually the king just dies of old age. Those are the ways that you end the game. All right, 2 things to talk about. Let's talk about the actual nitty-gritty of how people can vote yes or no. And this is actually rather intuitive. Let's say the same kind of event came up and we had this decision to make based off of this merchant. And I really wanted to go through, so I am going to vote yes. And I will have the leader token, which means I voted first. All right, so I voted yes. And I voted for 1. Let's pretend John is doing normal John things, and he is going to vote for anything that I do not vote for. John, he would pay out of his own stock, but let's pretend he votes 2 against, simply because he wants to go against what I wanted. Because I had 1 power and John had 2, John is now the power leader. And what that means is he is going to take the leader token. And this matters because the vote is going to go on around and around until it reaches the leader token again, and then it's game over. And the decision is made. So what that means is if I cast a vote, John casts a vote, and Charlotte casts a vote, and nobody takes the leader token, then it will have gotten all the way around, me voting, John voting, Charlotte voting, back to me, and I have the leader token, and the round will be done. But because John put in a bunch of power and became the leader, that means John is going to have a vote, Charlotte's going to have a vote, and I'm not the leader anymore, so I'm going to have another chance to make another vote. So let's say Charlotte votes 2, 4, because she wants this to go 4. Or, yeah, let's say Charlotte votes 1, 4, because she wants this to go 4. Her 1 is not stronger than John's 2. So she does not take the leader token. And now it's my turn to vote. And I cannot change my vote, but I can increase it. So let's pretend that I decided to increase it 1, 2, 3 power. What that means is I would take the leader token, but because I've taken the leader token, John gets another vote. And so he might vote 1 more for 3, and Charlotte might pass, and then it would come to my turn to vote, but because I'm the leader, and so it's gone full cycle, that means the vote is done, and we will tally up the points. There was 4 votes for A's, 3 votes for nays, which means the ayes will have it. What that means is Charlotte and I are going to pay our power. We lose this power because we have spent it on voting yes. John spent a bunch of power voting no, but because he didn't get what he wanted, he gets to keep his power into his personal stash that is hidden, and only John can see how much he has. So that's how you vote for yes, and that's how you vote for no. There are 2 other things that you can vote for. You can vote for power. In the game, there is going to be power that is left over in the center. If I vote for power, I can pass. That means I cannot vote yes and I cannot vote no. But at the end of the round, anybody who votes for power will get and split these tokens between them. So if I vote for power, John votes 1 for yes, and Charlotte votes 2 for no, and John passes. Charlotte votes 2 for no and John passes. Charlotte would pay her power. This token was not played in the last round. John would keep his power because he lost the vote. Charlotte won with the no's, he lost with the yeses. And I would get all the power that is in the center to keep into my personal stash. And Charlotte would pay her power, and where she would pay it is to the center. For people who pass in the next round, they will be able to get any of the power that was spent on the last few rounds of voting. So that's 3 things you can do: voting yes, voting no, passing for power. The third thing that you can do is pass for the moderator token. And how I would do that is I would pass for the moderator token. I would take a coin, pass for the moderator token. And what that means is I do not get any of the power in the center. But what I do get is I have the power to break ties, which is useful for two things. If John votes 1 for yes, so he takes the leader token, Charlotte votes 1 for no, and so she does not take the leader token. I have already passed. So now John voted, Charlotte voted, I passed, and now it's John's turn, but he has a leader token. That means that the round has ended. Who wins? Because there's 1 on yes and 1 on no. The moderator gets to decide if it's to the yes or to the no. And John and Charlotte can pay me and bribe me and make deals with me in order to get me to moderate in their favor. So in this case, let's say I said, hey, I want to go with John. That means the ayes would have it. John would pay his power. Charlotte would keep her power. And we would read the blue consequence on this card. And everything would move forward like that. So those are the 4 things you can do. Vote yes, vote no, pass for the moderator token, which is the tiebreaker token, or pass for power. The other thing the moderator does is if John voted yes, and Charlotte also voted yes, remember that sometimes the consequences involve stickers, which is, again, this 0 that was put down, which is this sticker number 0 right there, which I signed my name on. I get to decide, because they tied for who was the leader, who has to sign their name. Because Charlotte and John were both tied. None of them was the clear leader. The moderator will decide who is the leader. And that's the functionality of how you play this game. So we play a bunch of rounds. These tokens move up and move down. And eventually, let's pretend that the king the king dies. And so what we're going to do is add up points and see who won. And we're going to talk about what the consequences are for winning the round. At the beginning of the game, everybody is going to receive a secret agenda. And so the secret agendas can range from a number of things, from wanting to have a moderate style kingdom, wanting to be an opportunist, wanting to be greedy. And these give you points in 2 different ways. One of the ways, and the most obvious ways, is getting the tokens, this token, this token, this token, to be on a certain part of the track. The greedy person wants the tokens to be either really high or really low. The opportunist, on the other hand, wants everything in the kingdom to be poor. He wants people to be poor, the wealth to be down low. He wants the army to be low. He wants the welfare to be low. He wants knowledge to be low. So he or she can take opportunity of that. And so let's say in this scenario, they manage to have 1, 2, 3 of the tokens be on the lower half of the situation, of the board. That means the opportunist, because 3 of the tokens were in this golden area, they would score 10 points. The moderate wants everything to be roughly in the middle. So the moderate would look and count, and they have 1 thing, 2 things that are kind of in the middle of the board. This one's high, these 2 are very low. So they would have gotten 2 things in the middle of the board in the golden region. So they would get 7 points for having 2 things in the middle of the board. The greedy person wants things to be kind of in the extreme, but not everything to be in the extreme. So the greedy person would see 1, 2, 3 tokens in the extreme area. So they would get 1, 2, 3 things, 7. So they would get 7 points. That's the main way that you earn points with these cards. The other thing that happens is you earn points based off of how much money you have. Remember, you can pay people money in order to vote in a certain direction. So let's pretend that I gave John a bunch of coins. And John had the most coins out of anyone in the game. If you are in first place for being the richest person and you're the opportunist, you will receive an extra 6 gold. Contrast that to being the moderate, who doesn't care as much for money. If you had the most gold and you were a moderate, you would receive only 5 points for being the richest. Contrast to that to someone who is very greedy. A greedy person has an objective to get a lot of money. So if they end the game as the richest person at the table, they will receive 8 bonus points, in contrast to 6 or 5 from the moderate. So different people care about money to a different amount. Take, for example, the rebel, who only cares about what happens in the kingdom. They don't care about how much money they have. And so the rebel doesn't care about money all that much, and they only get 3, 2, or 1 point if they come in first, second, or third for money to begin with. That is the main way that you earn points. There are other ways that you earn points based off of these tokens, but we don't talk about that until we hit a couple games in, so I'm just not going to talk about that now. So everyone is going to have their secret agendas. So let's pretend that we scored this up, and let's pretend that Charlotte ended the game with 10 points. That is not a great typing job, but we'll go like this. Charlotte equals 10. John got 15 points, and Alex only got 2 points, let's say. John came in first place, Charlotte came in 10th place, Alex came in second place, or third place, last place. What you would do is you'd move up to this sheet right here. Remember that there are 3 ways that the game can end. Either the game goes on for a very long time and the king dies, or this marker gets to the very bottom, or this marker gets to the very top. If the marker got all the way up to the very top, that would be the marker got to the top of the track. That's what this says. And so the person in first place would get 3 points, 3 prestige points. The person in second place would get 2 prestige points, and the person in last place would get 2 crave points. If the marker ended up at the bottom of the track, the person in first place would get 3 crave points, person in second place would get 2 crave points, and the person in last place would get 2. Third, fourth, fifth place would get 1 crave point and 2 prestige points. If the king lasts the entire round and you play a bunch of rounds, then the person in first place gets 5 crowns. Person in second place gets 4 crowns. Person in third place gets 2 white crowns and a black crown, 2 white crowns and a black crown, and the last player gets 2 crave points. And so what do these crave points look like? I don't want to look at the ships. I want to look at this. Each of us is going to have a house. So in this case, I am the Dukes of Coden. And the Dukes of Coden have a place on their sheet to say, hey, we won, we got 5 prestige points, or hey, we filled some objectives, so we got some crave points. Prestige and crave are both good things. They're ways that you win the game at the end of the game. And the Dukes of Coden, they are all about force and growing strong. And they actually have some secret objectives. So if I was playing the Dukes of Coden, I would keep track of all the prestige I have earned and all the crave I have earned throughout every single game that we play. The other thing that I would do is keep track of all of these things. So let's say we ended a game. If we end the game and the wealth is the highest on the resource track at the end of the game, I would give myself a check mark. If we end the game and the balance is on the top half of the stability track at the end of the game, I would give myself a check mark. And if we end the game and welfare is the highest on the resource track at the end of the game, I would give myself a check mark. And every time we play games, as I'm giving myself check marks, I will keep giving myself check marks until I've gotten all of the check marks from playing a bunch of games and completing the secret objective. And whenever I do that, I will get this secret power. This secret power is that whenever I pass, I gain a voting token. So now for the rest of the games onward, whenever whoever's playing the Duke of Coden, because they did these 3 objectives 3 times throughout the games, they earn the secret power. Something else that could happen is if the balance was on the top half, as soon as they unlock this, they would get a free prestige points, and they would start the game with an extra power and an extra gold. Same for this. If they ever finished a game and the welfare was the highest on the resource track, they would start the game with an extra power and an extra gold, in addition to earning a prestige immediately once they complete this objective. So everyone has secret objectives that they're trying to accomplish that has very specific wealth or balance or welfare sorts of things. Where they care where these are. So in this case, welfare ended up at the top for this game. So they would give themselves, if it was the first game and they didn't have any check marks, they would give themselves a check mark there, and they would be 1 closer to unlocking the superpower. The last thing is they also have a certain style of playing. These extremist, opulent, moderate, rebel, opportunist, greedy correspond to these cards. Greedy, opportunist, moderate, rebel. And so if whoever is playing the Dukes of Coden took the opportunist card for one of their turns, what they would do is they would put a check mark here. And then the next time they were playing a game, if they took the rebel card instead, or in this case, the moderate card instead, they would give themselves a check mark there. And as they keep giving themselves check marks, eventually when this fills up, they will earn 1 crave point. But if they fill up this one right here, they will earn 3 prestige points. So the goal is to take different cards that are in line with what your house wants while completing these secret objectives in order to be able to unlock kind of the special abilities. All of that while keeping in mind, what is actually happening in the story and what you want to actually have happen. This is a lot of rules, but really it just comes down to, do you flip over a card and you see what the results are? Do you want it to go yes, or do you want it to go nay? So hopefully that makes sense. You can leave a comment if you have any confusion and there are any things that I didn't cover or that were unclear. And maybe you watch this and it's fun, maybe you don't, but I'll check in with you to see what the answer is for you and how you're feeling on that. Okay, that is it. Goodbye.